first of all, maybe I'd like to start things off by, okay, I'm very interested in this book, Leadership. I've had my share of business or in organizations striving in leadership. Maybe you could give me a short, brief overview on what this book is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Leadership Orbit. It's really born out of a couple of decades of different experiences that I've had that have really shaped my views around leadership. I think leadership is something that we talk a lot about, we
Yeah.
strive for, we seek after, and it's obviously really important. I actually believe that the kind of leadership that's described in this book and that I've come to really become, a passionate, believer in is something that's really self-sustaining. It's generating an ability to progress and advance and help others do the same, despite and in fact, in light of and actually as part of, all different seasons of both life and business. And
Mhm.
so it's a passion project. I believe in it deeply. I'm really excited about writing it. The whole premise for me writing the book actually was born out of a business. I'm going to call it a business disaster. And the business disaster really stemmed from a lack of leadership by the people that ultimately controlled that business. And I kind of had a front row seat in that. And so by witnessing that, I actually initially thought I was going to write a book about that business flameout, this entire disaster, which, by the way, is probably going to be an interesting book later. But as I
Mhm.
began writing it and thinking about it, I actually it morphed into something that was much bigger, much grander, much more relevant across all of my experiences, and something that I believe that our world is in desperate need of. And so
Yeah.
that's Leadership Orbit.
Leadership. Okay, I've had my share of conflicts with that, Matt. I have to admit it with you. I've been working for over 30 years, and one thing that I've struggled to survive with, well, manage is politics, company politics, whether it be the private sector or the government sector. There is
Mhm.
always politics. Could you maybe share me how you were able to survive or how you were able to deal with it?
Yeah, absolutely. I've learned that in oftentimes, whether it's a board of directors
Mm-hmm.
or in private companies, whether it's, founders and owners or CEOs, those that we would typically associate with leaders, I've found that really those groups are actually designed to preserve their power,
Yeah.
not progress and advance, individuals and companies. And so the harsh reality is many people, if you're waiting for a board or a CEO or some, a leader in some role to validate your own abilities, your own vision, your own growth potential, you're already, really dead in the water. And
Yeah.
so, true leadership orbit, as I call it, comes from generating your own unstoppable momentum, independent of traditional power structures. And the reality is our circumstances don't have to control us. And
Yeah.
and when we actually take control of our own circumstances and how we act and how we feel and the decisions we make and the choices we make, magic starts to happen. Even
Mm-hmm.
if we're stuck in a situation that is uncontrollable, so to speak, from the outside, we can actually create this momentum, this internal momentum, which can lead to great things. And I really believe that whether it's business politics, actual politics or some other thing, I actually believe the world is starving for this movement that's really individually driven and then sustained. That's outside of kind of a power, structure that's really preserved to maintain their power, not progress and advance.
Have you ever experienced sometimes when you, for example, you're doing something good, you're leading a company, an organization in the right direction, but they don't want to accept the fact that you're the one leading it, but in the end, they adopt your ideas and strategies. Have you ever experienced that?
Yes, I have. I've experienced circumstances in which your ability to move and advance and progress forward with your broader team is
Mhm.
actually thwarted by a board, or a group that ultimately prevents you or tries to limit your ability to actually make choices and grow and develop. I've also experienced times in which you've made really awesome things happen and
Mhm.
others take the credit, and you never ultimately get outwardly rewarded or even inwardly rewarded for that. I've experienced both of those things. They're extremely frustrating.
Yeah.
They're oftentimes painful because the people that do this are
Mhm.
are many times, like, you spend more time with them in a business sense than you do with your own loved ones and family members, and so you have strong personal relations. And so that pain can really be debilitating, for many people. But I what I found is, if you can switch your mindset away from looking for external validation, external credit, and or if you stop waiting for others to kind of set you free and you just take control of that, it creates just such a better attitude, mindset, optimism, and an ability to move forward, uh, whether that's in good times or bad times. And I think that's what, again, one of the main premise and points of Leadership Orbit is really trying to drive home.
Right. Okay, let's just say you're in this organization and everything you're doing good, but then again, there are those, well, jealousy.
Mhm.
I don't know what they're doing. How are you able to survive and try to stay the course and for the good of the company?
Yeah, you have to seek for your own energy and
Mhm.
your own, I'm going to call it recognition, or your own, what motivates you. You have to seek that from within, not from without. The second that you're waiting for that external validation or credit or permission, that's where you're ultimately gonna, be disappointed,
Yeah.
because that's just the way it is. And so you have to seek that from within. You have to understand what it is that what you're driving for and why you're driving for it. You have to have your own goals around that and your own reasons. In Leadership Orbit, I talk about it. Breathing. You have to be responsible for your own oxygen. You can't be
Mhm.
relying on others for that. And that mindset shift is a powerful thing. I recognize that it's difficult, but it's a powerful thing.
So, up to what extent? I mean, would you stay with this company for so long, or does it reach a point when you reach that certain personal goal, and well, tell yourself either you go through it alone or move to another organization or company? Is that something that you experienced?
Absolutely. On the one extreme of that, I've had to choose to leave a company, because they ultimately were not making lawful and right decisions,
Mm-hmm.
both morally and legally. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you get into those situations, obviously those are hard lines.
Yeah.
Those are pretty obvious, but very difficult decisions to make. On the other end of the extreme, if it's just a matter of, again, some group, some leader, some organization is just, thwarting your ability to grow and develop and advance, there's obviously other factors that you have to take into account,
Mm-hmm.
whether or not you actually just jump ship, leave, and move forward. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, I do believe that people matter a lot.
Yes.
And if the people that you're spending time with, whether in a work environment or social or other environment, are not increasing your own positive energy,
Mhm.
and attitude, that's something that needs to be, like, taken very seriously.
Mhm.
And so, again, from a business standpoint, sometimes you have to do what you have to do to put food on the table or to provide a living for the loved ones that rely on you. But at the end of the day, I do believe you need to be able to be in a position where, who you work with and how you work drives positive momentum and energy, not negative.
Okay. This problem we have. I mean, you experienced it. I experienced it. what does this mean? I mean, for companies, how does this affect companies when it comes to growth? I mean, if their leaders they want a different certain kind of standard from leaders that this is not followed, what's going to happen to these companies? I mean, in the long run.
Yeah. I believe that people solve problems and people make growth happen, not organizations, governments, or entities. As a
Mhm,
result of that, if an organization or a business has the kind of leader in place by title, not by actual leadership qualities, but by title that
mhm,
thwarts that positive growth, hey, let's seek after truth and then let's refine it and get better and better. That kind
mhm,
of constant improvement mentality. If a leader by title or role prevents that culturally, habitually, or just by how they manage,
mhm,
those businesses ultimately struggle, suffer, die, wear out, get overcome by a competing business or entity. And so it's really I do believe that this is something that is both relevant in business, it's relevant in government, it's also relevant in family relations and communities.
yes,
Um,
yes.
you we are all here. We all have weaknesses. We all have issues. We all have to get better. We all make mistakes. It's the same in business. It's the same in our personal lives. If you have leaders in place that embrace that positive change,
Mhm,
overcoming mistakes, recognizing and being vulnerable about weaknesses, man, that's when you can really have really amazing things happen, because you have a group of individuals that are trying to get better and work through things. And people are amazing. We are resilient. We
yeah,
overcome. That's that. But if you have the opposite, and what the path to progress is halted or limited because we're
mhm,
either hiding our weaknesses, we're not admitting our faults, we're not seeking after ways to get better. If
mhm,
progress is halted, businesses die. And so from a leadership standpoint of a business, it's just critical. And
mhm.
there's numerous examples of that, even in sports, right?
Yeah,
When
yeah.
a coach, when the leader, right, of a team stops getting better, stops overcoming mistakes, stops doing the things necessary to kind of advance and move forward and overcome, teams then all of a sudden, and again, I'm using the term die, but they
Mhm.
stop being competitive and they
Yeah.
kind of fall to the bottom. And then it usually takes a whole cycle to break that mentality and that culture. And it usually is the result of a new leader or a new coach kind of being put in place. And then that culture can start to shift and change and grow. And so that's, it's applicable really across all walks of life.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you mentioned those things. I mean, sometimes we find ourselves well in just situations we cannot control. How can you, I mean, lead through crisis and and transform it? What would you advise?
Yeah, crisis is actually the greatest opportunity for growth and advancement.
Mm,
And it's such an easy thing to say when you're not in a crisis.
uh-huh,
However, having gone through, lived through, fought through, grown through, overcome many crises, again, business, etc., you gain more and more confidence that um, it's not the end. Any one issue that you're dealing with is not going to be your story. There's always going to be another opportunity, another way to grow. And so if you can really gain confidence in that and conviction around that, when you're faced with a crisis, a business can actually say, look, this is really hard, really difficult. It's not going to be fun dealing with it. There's lots of stress associated with it. But you know what? We're going to be better, stronger, more resilient. And ultimately, the team is going to gain, even more, I'm going to call it leadership orbit, as a result of grinding through those crises. And so, my wife, some of my kids sometimes joke at how stoic I can be during
mm,
moments of what seems to be very stressful business situations and things like that. part of it's because I've been through a lot of experience, a lot of scars on the back. Part of it's because I maintain a very optimistic, hopeful attitude. And part of it is I just have conviction that, life is not about successes, so to speak. Life is just about progressing. And the
Yeah.
only way you progress is through pain. And yeah, there's some good moments. The downhill slopes on a bike ride are feel good and it allows your muscles to rest. But the uphill moments, even though you're burning and maybe want to even quit, are kind of also part of the journey. And so I view it as an all-encompassing part of what we're here for, and you embrace it. And I think the leaders that have that attitude, that can instill that kind of confidence that it's going to be okay, we're going to make it through, even if you can't see a way through, we're still going to figure it out. Man, I think people really are drawn to that. And I think that's a really important part of leadership orbit and being able to self-sustain this over and over again.
Okay. My last question, Matt. Can you share a personal story of corporate whistleblowing and rebuilding? That's my last question for you.
Man, I have a great one for you.
All
I
right.
there was a phenomenal company. Its name was NQ Mobile. It was
Mhm.
listed on the New York Stock Exchange. They were pioneers in mobile security before kind of smartphones really, really took off in a huge way. They recognized the need for securing your smartphones from, viruses and other harmful things. They then had amazing products around mobile gaming. They called it live video social, which today we think of TikTok, but they were early days and had a big business. Anyway, incredible business with incredible leaders. The board of directors ultimately refused, to make some key decisions that would have removed some bad actors from the company, and enabled the company to overcome some, I'm going to call it things that just were not up and coming with a New York listed public company. I did everything that I could on the inside to try and convince the board. I talked to the outside securities council, the auditors. I mean, it was a very stressful and difficult and painful experience, which ultimately led me to whistleblowing, to both the exchange, the SEC, and to the audit community, because the board refused to do some things. It was a crazy saga. Again, Chinese-based company. That included billionaires vanishing from government investigations, this, that, and the other thing. But ultimately, man, I learned a lot. I lost a lot. I learned a lot. But at the end of the day, I really gained confidence that leadership really does matter a lot, and organizations that don't have it ultimately die. And whatever dying means, in certain companies that can mean truly, ending. For other companies, it can just mean struggling and getting beat by competition. But that was a personal experience, a deep part of my history. Again, it was there. There's a lot of wild stories that I think will be an interesting, tell all at some point in the future. But something that I look back on, and man, I learned a lot from, and gained a lot of experience from.
All right. Okay, Matt, before I let you go, being a leader myself, what is the best advice can you give to me and other leaders out there?
Yeah, focus on the small and simple things that you can do daily and consistently over long periods of time. That's ultimately what makes the biggest impact, not the grandiose, big goals. And like those are important, but those actually come about when you do very small and simple things consistently well over long periods of time. So my advice to you would be, focus on doing those daily, small, simple things. If there's areas in your life that you want to improve, or if there's areas in the people that you're leading that you want to improve, help them break down what it takes to accomplish what you're trying to in small, simple, bite-sized things that they can do over and over again. And consistency is key. Consistency is what wins, not big bursts of effort that then kind of fizzle off. It's being consistent.
All right. Thank you, Matt, for your time. Very informative, and I love our conversation.
Brian, thank you so much for your time. I wish you and your family a happy holiday season and Thanksgiving, and stay in touch.
Yeah, I will for sure because I'm going to read your book also, and happy holidays also to your family because I found it very interesting. So I'm gonna be reading on that in the next couple of weeks.
Amazing. Well, that will be great. Can't wait to hear what you think about it.
Okay, I will. I will. All right, I'll let you go now. Thank you,
Thank-
Matt. I hope talk to you again soon.
Yep. Bye bye. Thank you.
Okay, bye.